Section 5 of Venus in Furs. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by J.C. Guan. Venus in Furs by Leopold von Sacher-Masoch. Section 5. It is evening. An attractive maid brings me orders to appear before my mistress. I ascend the wide marble stairs, pass through the anteroom, a large salon furnished with extravagant magnificence, and knock at the door of the bedroom. I knock very slowly, for the luxury displayed everywhere intimidates me. Consequently no one hears me, and I stand for some time in front of the door. I have a feeling as if I were standing before the bedroom of the great Catherine, and it seems as if at any moment she might come out in her green sleeping furs, with the red ribbon and decoration on her bare breast, and with her little white powdered curls. I knocked again. Wanda impatiently pulls the door open. "Why so late?" she asks. "I was standing in front of the door, but you didn't hear me knock," I replied timidly. She closes the door, and clinging to me, she leads me to the red damask ottoman on which she had been resting. The entire arrangement of the room is in red damask. Wall-paper, curtains, portieres, hangings of the bed, a magnificent painting of Samson and Delilah forms the ceiling. Wanda receives me in an intoxicating déshabillé. Her white satin dress flows gracefully and picturesquely down her slender body, leaving her arms and breast bare, and carelessly they nestle amid the dark hair of the great fur of the sable, lined with green velvet. Her red hair falls down her back as far as the hips, only half held by strings of black pearls. "Venus in Furs," I whispered, while she draws me to her breast and threatens to stifle me with her kisses. Then I no longer speak, and neither do I think. Everything is drowned out in an ocean of unimaginable bliss. "Do you still love me?" she asks, her eyes softening in passionate tenderness. "You ask!" I exclaimed. "You still remember your oath," she continued, with an alluring smile. "Now that everything is prepared, everything in readiness, I ask you once more, is it still your serious wish to become my slave?" "Am I not ready?" I asked in surprise. "You have not yet signed the papers." "Papers? What papers?" "Oh, I see. You want to give it up," she said. "Well then, we will let it go." "But, Wanda," I said, "you know that nothing gives me greater happiness than to serve you, to be your slave. I would give everything for the sake of feeling myself wholly in your power, even unto death." "How beautiful you are," she whispered, "when you speak so enthusiastically, so passionately. I am more in love with you than ever, and you want me to be dominant, stern, and cruel. I am afraid it will be impossible for me to do so." "I am not afraid," I replied, smiling. "Where are the papers?" "So that you may know what it means to be absolutely in my power, I have drafted a second agreement in which you declare that you have decided to kill yourself. In that way I can even kill you, if I so desire." "Give them to me." While I was unfolding the documents and reading them, Wanda got pen and ink. She then sat down beside me, with her arm about my neck, and looked over my shoulder at the paper. The first one read, "Agreement between Madame von Dunayev and Severin von Kusiemski. Severin von Kusiemski ceases with the present day being the affianced of Madame Wanda von Dunayev, and renounces all the rights appertaining thereunto. He, on the contrary, binds himself on his word of honor as a man and nobleman, that hereafter he will be her slave until such time as she herself sets him at liberty again. As the slave of Madame von Dunayev, he is to bear the name Gregor, and he is unconditionally to comply with every one of her wishes, and to obey every one of her commands. He is always to be submissive to his mistress, and is to consider her every sign of favor as an extraordinary mercy. Madame von Duneyev is entitled not only to punish her slave as she deems best, even for the slightest inadvertence or fault, but also is herewith given the right to torture him as the mood may seize her, or merely for the sake of whiling away the time. Should she so desire, she may kill him whenever she wishes. In short, he is her unrestricted property. Should Madame von Duneyev ever set her slave at liberty, Severin von Kuziemski agrees to forget everything that he has experienced or suffered as her slave, and promises never under any circumstances and in no wise to think of vengeance or retaliation. Madame von Duneyev on her behalf agrees as his mistress to appear as often as possible in her furs, especially when she purposes some cruelty toward her slave. Appended at the bottom of the agreement was the date of the present day. The second document contained only a few words. Having since many years become weary of existence and its illusions, I have of my own free will put an end to my worthless life. I was seized with a deep horror when I had finished. There was still time, I could still withdraw, but the madness of passion and the sight of the beautiful woman that lay all relaxed against my shoulder carried me away. "This one you will have to copy, Severin," said Wanda, indicating the second document. "It has to be entirely in your own handwriting. This, of course, isn't necessary in the case of the agreement." I quickly copied the few lines in which I designated myself a suicide, and handed them to Wanda. She read them and put them on the table with a smile. "Now, have you the courage to sign it?" she asked with a crafty smile, inclining her head. I took the pen. "Let me sign first," said Wanda. "Your hand is trembling. Are you afraid of the happiness that is to be yours?" She took the agreement and pen. While engaging in my internal struggle, I looked upward for a moment. It occurred to me that the painting on the ceiling, like many of those of the Italian and Dutch schools, was utterly unhistorical, but this very fact gave it a strange mood which had an almost uncanny effect on me. Delilah, an opulent woman with flaming red hair, lay extended, half disrobed in a dark fur coat, upon a red ottoman, and bent smiling over Samson, who had been overthrown and bound by the Philistines. Her smile in its mocking coquetry was full of a diabolical cruelty. Her eyes, half closed, met Samson's, and his, with a last look of insane passion, clinged to hers, for already one of his enemies is kneeling on his breast with the red-hot iron to blind him. "Now," said Wanda, "while you are all lost in thought, what is the matter with you? Everything will remain just as it was, even after you have signed. Don't you know me yet, dear heart?" I looked at the agreement. Her name was written there in bold letters. I peered once more into her eyes with their potent magic. Then I took the pen and quickly signed the agreement. "You're trembling," said Wanda calmly. "Shall I help you?" She gently took hold of my hand, and my name appeared at the bottom of the second paper. Wanda looked once more at the two documents, and then locked them in the desk which stood at the head of the ottoman. "Now then, give me your passport and money." I took out my wallet and handed it to her. She inspected it, nodded, and put it with other things, while in a sweet drunkenness I kneeled before her, leaning my head against her breast. Suddenly she thrusts me away with her foot, leaps up, and pulls the bell rope. In answer to its sound 3 young, slender negresses enter. They are as if carved of ebony, and are dressed from head to foot in red satin. Each one has a rope in her hand. Suddenly I realize my position, and am about to rise. Wanda stands proudly erect. Her cold, beautiful face, with its sombre brows and contemptuous eyes, is turned toward me. She stands before me as a mistress, commanding, gives a sign with her hand, and before I really know what has happened to me, the negresses have dragged me to the ground and have tied